There are 5 names that are flying under the radar and the media is not talking about, but don't take my word for it. Let's listen to what the players have to say.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zach Blackerbie, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day, or maybe your second listen. This is a bonus edition of the show. There's an Instagram account in the Auburn corner of the internet. It's called Around the Plains. They do a fantastic job. And last week they posted something that I thought was pretty interesting. And, I saved it. I'm like, when I get back from Ohio, I'm going to do a show on this. They asked 5 of the younger Auburn players if they played on offense. They asked who's the one guy on offense the media should be talking about more. And if it was on defense, they made that more of the defensive guy that people should be talking about more. And I wanted to go through some of those. They asked 5 players: Perry Thompson, Blake Woodby, Bryce Diaz, Joe Phillips, and Donovan Starr. So we'll start on the offense. Perry Thompson was the only offensive player that was posted in this. But he said Bryce. We assume Bryce Cain, the shifty, electric, potentially dynamic wide receiver that we're all excited about. I just don't see how Bryce could get on the field given the current situation at slot receiver. But man, I think 2026 will be Bryce's year. But I love this answer from Perry because I think it signifies like, hey, the receiver room still respects Bryce Cain. And I think that's something that comes up a lot is Bryce Cain. I think they understand how athletic and how good he will be once he's given a shot. He just has guys like Malcolm Simmons and Eric Singleton in front of him. And that's not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing. I know we all want as many freshmen to play because they're rated highly and they're new and they can, we've seen a lot of these young freshmen come in and play, but you don't always see that, especially in positions where you're loaded. We're going to talk about this with cornerback possibly later in this show. It doesn't matter how good you are. If the guys in front of you are better and they need to be on the field, like that's okay. That's okay. And in fact, that's the goal from this Auburn coaching staff's point of view. But I love that Perry said Bryce Cain because I don't mention Bryce Cain much. And so Perry's probably right. Who's the guy on offense media should be talking about more? Bryce Cain. But I don't know if it's for this season. But I do love that he mentioned Bryce Cain. Big fan of the guy. They also asked Blake Woodby, who's the guy on defense the media should be talking about more? And he said Keyron, assuming Keyron Crawford. And then he sent a follow-up message that this Around the Plains Instagram account screenshotted. He said, Keyron, first rounder. Now, do I think Keyron Crawford will be a first-round pick in the NFL draft? No, I don't. But I do think he will be a draft pick in this year's NFL draft. And when you look at what he's going to be able to do in one-on-one coverage or one-on-one matchups, because of the guys that are next to him. Keldrick Falk on the other side of it, Malik Blockton. And then we keep hearing awesome things about all these other interior linemen as well as Amaris Williams. Like there's so many guys that we've mentioned when we talk about pass rush and the defensive front seven that Blake Woodby is right. We don't talk about Keyron Crawford enough because Keldrick Falk is going to have such an impact. But pass rushing isn't an individual thing. It's a team thing. It's a unit-based thing. And so there's going to be games where the offense, they decide their game plan is looking at Auburn and saying, we're not going to let Keldrick Falk beat us. That's okay. That's fine. And Keldrick's fine. If you got 2 or 3 guys every play looking at Keldrick, I think everybody on Auburn's defense is okay with that, including Keldrick. And you know who's most okay with that? Keyron Crawford. Keyron Crawford, 100%. So are we talking about Keyron Crawford enough in the media? Blake Woodby's probably right. We're probably not talking about Keyron Crawford enough. So I loved that answer from Blake would be. Another one. This Instagram account asks Bryce Diaz, who's the one guy on defense the media should be talking more about? And he said Darrian Smith. And he said Darrian Smith, he's going to make big. Let me start that over. Darrian Smith, he's going to be a big impact on third and passing downs. We saw Darrian Smith listed as the number 2, or I guess he was the defensive end for the second unit at the last open window. Do I think that'll be the case consistently? I don't, because I think Auburn has a lot of edge guys. They're going to try to figure out how to put those guys on the field. And also, like, Keldrick is going to start at the end, and then you've got Amaris, and then I think you'll have a shot for Darrian Smith to be there. Do they use that as an opportunity to get Chris Kelly Murray on the field? I don't know. But Darrian Smith, it's so hard to rush the passer as a freshman. You just very rarely see it. It's the elite guys that can do it, and normally it's the second year guys where you take that big step forward as a pass rusher. We saw that with Keldrick last year. So once again, like similar to Perry bringing up Bryce Cain, I don't know if Darrian Smith is going to be a major impact on this year's team, but next year's team, when Keldrick moves on and is hopefully a top 10 pick, then Amaris Williams is the projected guy to start a defensive end, and Darrian Smith is the guy behind him. Yeah, I think that makes total sense. And I think that's worth something being excited about. So I like Bryce Diaz's answer of Darrian Smith, but just not for this year. For the coming seasons, I think that'll be big. And I think that'll be a really, really crucial part of Auburn's front seven 12 months from now, Darrian Smith. The next answer is actually my favorite, and I probably should have led with it, but that's next, right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at Monarch Money. You ever wish managing money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can be easier. Whether you're growing your savings or you're planning for a big purchase or a vacation, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. It's more than just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending all in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you can build wealth. Yeah, that's fun. That's exciting. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Continuing to go through the 5 players that answered around the plains on Instagram, answering the question, who's the guy on your side of the football that the media should be talking more about? He asked Joe Phillips. I assume the guy who runs the account is a guy. Around the plains, asked Joe Phillips, who's the one guy on defense the media should be talking about more? And who did Joe Phillips say? He said Joe Phillips, which I love. I absolutely love this. Let's just rewind. I mean, Joe Phillips was a local guy that Auburn was leading for. And then Georgia wanted him desperately at the end, and Auburn had to hold him off. I mean, that was one of the larger recruiting battles. It didn't count as a flip, but it felt like a flip because Georgia really believed that they were going to get Joe Phillips. And you didn't really see or hear anything from him last year because of the Buck edge room. But now, like, that seems to be a little bit more open, and we've heard a little bit of good things about Joe Phillips so far. So I'm excited to see how he's used in this defense because I do think he's too talented to keep off the field in his second year in this program. Hugh Freeze has talked a lot about, like, they're trying to find guys that can get him 8 to 12 snaps. And I think Joe Phillips is part of that. And then next year, when a lot of these guys go to the league, he could be a key part of this core on the defense. So, and also you just got to love the confidence. Hey, who's the guy on your side of the ball we should be talking about more? Me, because I'm putting the work in. I'm underrated, and I can't wait to prove people wrong. I love it. I mean, how can you not love that? So Joe Phillips saying Joe Phillips is the guy on defense the media should be talking more about. I hear you, Joe. I love it. Lastly, they asked Donovan Starr, who's the one player on defense the media should be talking about more. I don't know if I agree with this one because I think we're all talking about him a lot, but Elijah Melendez at linebacker. I think Elijah Melendez has a really solid case to start by the end of the season. I don't know if I want him starting against Baylor. I don't think I want him starting against Baylor, but I do. I was asked this question when I went live earlier in the week. Somebody said, who's a freshman that may not start against Baylor but could start in the Iron Bowl? And Elijah Melendez was my answer. So Donovan Starr, like I agree to some extent, like Elijah Melendez, somewhat underrated, but I do think we're talking about him plenty. So those are 5 guys. Those are 5 good answers. Donovan Starr saying Elijah Melendez, Joe Phillips saying Joe Phillips, Bryce Diaz saying Darrian Smith, Blake would be saying Keyron Crawford, and then Perry Thompson saying Bryce Cain. And I'll go ahead and give my answer. Who's the guy on either side of the ball that people aren't talking about enough? I'm going to say Jay Crawford because I still think he's underrated, but I'll go elsewhere. I will go with Jeremiah Wright at right guard because we talk about every other guy on this O-line. We talk about the additions of Xavier Chaplin and Mason Murphy. We talk about the versatility and reliability of Dylan Wade, and then just the overall eliteness, if that's a word, of Connor Lew. And it's a 5-man group. And I think Jeremiah Wright is a leader on this team. And I think he's a solid interior offensive lineman, especially when it comes to run blocking. And I just think we talk about O-line so much that Jeremiah Wright doesn't come up. So I'll go Jeremiah Wright for my answer there. And also on the same side of the football, I think you could go Brandon Frazier at tight end. Once again, like he's going to play a lot. He's probably going to start, maybe not in every type of personnel grouping and situation, but he's going to be a piece in this offense as well. And that's the beauty of this whole conversation is Auburn has so many guys at every position where you can make the argument that they're important, that they're crucial. And you could go at least 2 deep at pretty much every spot saying, hey, this guy's important. This guy's important because he's so good. How do they keep him off the field? Because that's what's happened. They've stacked multiple recruiting cycles. They've stacked multiple transfer portal cycles. And all of a sudden, you look up, and this has been the story all offseason. It's like, oh, Auburn's roster is pretty good now. How exciting. How exciting for Hugh Freeze and this coaching staff. So I love this post. Go follow Around the Plains. Let him know that you heard about his account here, I guess. I don't know. Give him love. Puts out a lot of good stuff and is certainly deserving of it. Please like the video. Please subscribe. If you're tuned in on audio, please subscribe and leave us a review. It helps the show out so much. Helps us out a ton. We'll see you next time. This has been Locked On Auburn.